the meeting to order at 6:03, January 13th, Thursday. I am going to do roll call technically, because we don't have a chairman at this exact moment. So I'm going to do roll call. Doug Maxellen, Bethany Olette,
Here.
Tim Neville,
Here.
Matt Despard.
Here.
I am here. Marie Pisner,
Here.
John Ungary.
Trying to log on right now. So
Okay.
he should be on momentarily. John Ungary.
Okay. Thank you. Tina
Mhm.
LeBlanc, you
Yep,
are here. Scott Ryder. And John LeBlanc. Okay, so we do have a quorum. Also with us is Donald Nunes from DPW and Chris Cycli from CSG. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 members present, 7 if John Ungary comes in, and 1, 2, 3 members absent, or 4 if John Ungary doesn't come in.
So John LeBlanc put in the, sorry to interrupt you, John LeBlanc put in the.
He's in the chat, right?
Yeah, so he's trying to get on now too.
Okay.
Him and John Ungary are like having issues with the link. It took me a couple times, so it might just take them a couple times.
Okay, please forward your link complaints to Donald Nunes. I'm kidding, don't do that. All right, so one thing I did not add to the agenda, so I'm gonna need a motion to add the election of a chairman to the agenda. So if I can have someone make that motion.
So moved.
Motion to elect a chairman.
All right, so I'll say motion made by Tim, seconded by Marie. Do I have a nomination for chairman?
I have one.
I'm sorry, that's Tina?
Tina, yep.
Thank you.
I would like to nominate Gina Sakala.
I will second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, motion to close nominations.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I don't know, Tina, do we have to do a roll call or can we just do all in favor?
I think just all in favor at this point.
Okay. All right, all in favor of, I guess, me being the chairman?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Awesome. All right, thank you, guys. All right.
Mr. Ungary is on. I see him, so he's
Yep.
all set.
So for the record, John Ungary also is here. And I think John LeBlanc is coming in. So, Tina, after this meeting, you can do roll call. I just apparently needed to do it this meeting. So approval of the minutes from October 28th, 2021. I don't know if everybody has had time to review them and see them.
So moved, Tim.
Is there a second? Anybody?
Second.
Second.
All right. Thank you. Any additions, discussions, deletions? Okay, all in favor of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And abstentions, I would assume, would be Matt and John Ungary and Marie.
Yeah, I was not here for October.
So do we have enough to pass it then? Tim, Bethany, me, Tina. That's 4. I don't know. I don't think so.
Why? I thought you just had to have a simple majority of the, and we had a quorum, so we should be able to do it.
Okay. Works for me.
I think you're correct, Tim, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. All right. So we'll say it passes unless somebody wants to come in and give us a huge issue with it, which I really hope they don't. All right. Special guests, technically, we have both Donald Nunes here and Chris Cycli, but they're going to discuss some of the items on the agenda with us. As you can see, I kind of cleaned up the agenda a little, took some of the stuff off that didn't really need to be on there. I will add it back on if we have something to talk about, with those items. So I want to start with unfinished business, which would be both the Henry Barnard and the Eli Whitney roof replacement phases. So I think, Chris, you want to take it from here and let us know where we stand on those?
Sure. So Barnard Phase 1 and Phase 2, there's still no change. Barnard, excuse me, Barnard Phase 3, we do need to schedule the Board of Ed meeting to get in there to accept that as complete so we can submit the final paperwork to the state now that that's complete. And Eli and Hazardville is actually the other one, Gina, you meant to mention.
Yeah.
Eli Whitney and Hazardville are both advertised and out to bid right now. Tuesday, we have mandatory walkthroughs at 1 o'clock at Eli Whitney, 2 o'clock at Hazardville. And then the bids are due on the 24th, I believe. That's the date. That could be-
Chris,
could
do
be
you
wrong.
mind, you said Henry Barnard, no change. Can you just, for the benefit of a few.
Sure, the
people,
new
can you
committee
give
members?
just a very brief overview of where we stand so they can kind of get caught up?
Sure. So phases 1 and 2, the roofs were complete. So all of the roofing at Barnard is now complete. Phases 1 and 2 have been complete, and the Board of Ed has accepted those projects as complete, and the final accounting paperwork has been submitted to the state to begin their audit process. So that's where, phases 1 and 2 are currently in the state in the audit. Phase 3 needs to be submitted to the state to begin that audit.
Okay.
And upon completion of the state audits is when we will receive our final payment on those 2 projects, or the 3 projects actually.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Yeah,
Tim?
Tim, how long does it usually take for the audit? My recollection is a long time. Is that right?
It can take quite a while. Yeah, the smaller projects, they tend to go a little bit faster than the larger projects. And I say that there's a $2.5 million threshold. $2.5 million and under is done internally, I'll call it, in terms of an audit with the school construction department. $2.5 million and over is done in the audit department of school construction. So 2 very different entities within the department and 2 very different timelines. So I'm pushing to get the phases 1 and 2 completed through the audit. I had a couple of conversations with the state back around Thanksgiving, trying to push it along, woke them up, but then the holidays and a few staffing changes within their department kind of derailed the progress I was making. So I'll keep pushing that again now for this year.
Is this months or years that we're
What's
waiting?
that?
Is this going to be months or years? It can go a long time.
Years. Yeah, it can go a long time.
Oh, wow.
They technically, by statute, they have 5 years to complete the audit.
That's what I thought.
Is this a financial audit?
It's a financial audit, correct? So we submit to them the RFPs, all the invoices, and then they review it, make sure that everything adds up, and then they come back with us with comments.
Just so I understand, because I'm kind of new here. So we're submitting the audit for work that's already completed? Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. And so did the work that we complete come in within budget?
Yes.
Why would an audit take that long? And I'm just,
It's just the state's process.
okay.
We literally give them all the information, and they sit there and they'll review invoice after invoice, and yeah, it's just their process.
Tim, you all set?
Yes.
And John, you have any other questions?
No, thank you.
All right, Bethany?
Tina, for your minutes, it's the 28th that those bids are due for Hazardville and Eli. That's what's advertised.
28th, sorry.
It's okay.
So Chris, you'll work with Tina and the BOE on getting into them what you need to?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Anybody have any other questions on Eli, Hazardville, or Henry Barnard?
Just one other question. You said that there's a walkthrough like on Monday or Tuesday. Is that a walkthrough of this committee, or what is that walkthrough?
No, sorry. So the walkthrough is for prospective bidders. Myself, Donald, or another representative from DPW, and the architect,
Okay.
Tom Hibbard.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Chris. So
welcome.
I moved a lot of the stuff that we are going to be talking about for the first time, or something new that's happened, into new business. The first one in 6A is the roofs. So the rooferendum, as Scott dubbed it, has passed. So now we, as a committee, kind of need to look at what the timeline is, the strategy. Do we need to reprioritize any of the roofs in the timeline that we had? So Donald, I don't know if you were able to find, or if everybody has a copy of the sort of the timeline that we had for the roofs.
I don't have it, but I do have something else on the screen that that I'll post up on the screen. We can discuss about how things are layered, or
Okay.
how they're attacked. But so just so let everybody know, currently I have two RFPs in finance department. One is for the school side, the school projects. One is for the town side. So what we are including, or what I've included in that RFP to solicit consultants to do, is like site investigation, construction drawings and bidding documents is another portion, handle the grant applications, attend these committee meetings, and project manage the whole project. So that's what we were trying to do on a year-by-year, school-by-school basis, okay? Similarly, with the town side, that's exactly what we want to do. So I can take that off of my plate, if you will, and that other, again, the consultant, whoever it is, would be able to try to find some grant applications if we can find some things and reduce our cost as well. The goal would be, again, let's say there's Neville Consulting, okay? And Demers Consulting, Neville does all the architectural stuff, but Demers does all of the other kind of good stuff. They would have to go in to get, like, either it would be Neville would be the prime, and and Neville would sub to Demers to go have as one prime. So we're only dealing with one, like basically one contractor, and everything else underneath it will follow, as long as, again, Neville Consulting Group would be, it is the prime, and that's how we were going to do it. That way, again, we're dealing with one group of people and just trying to get it through and try to do it that way. Now, in terms of ordering, I've had a lot of conversations with Finance Director Wilcox about how to make sure we get the most bang for the buck, I guess, because we have portions of these roofs that are not of age yet. We have some that are 17 years old, some are 18. So he was asking if there was a possible way to take those two-stage roofs, push them back so they're of age, so that they hit their 20-year mark, and that way we can put out the entire roof as one package and hopefully get some economies of scale. Because otherwise, we're going to be going from, well, I think I have that. Let me get that up on the screen.
Parkman, right? Parkman has more than one phase because one part of it's not over 20 years, right?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
So if this is the one you're referring to, so again, John has asked me if there's any creative way. Does this help make it a little bigger? John has asked if there's any possible way to take Parkman, push it down, take Stowe, push it down, and reorder this so we're not doing it in phases. And I have sort of come up with a way to do that, but we'd wind up skipping a couple of years, which I don't really think is going to be that bad. It's just an optics thing. So in the RFP, we were planning on doing like Parkman in 22, Stowe 23, Crandall 24, and 25 would be Enfield Street School. If we waited until 24, I can do the entirety of Crandall and the entirety of Parkman in 1 year, the entirety of Enfield Street School, then Stowe is all of age anyways, and it's in the better condition, so that can wait to get pushed off. That would be one scenario, is right down is here. And the original one in my RFP that's in finance right now has it this way, or we can revert back to this one, which again, John was asking if there's any possible way to make it a little more appealing and have a bigger roof section where you all get done at the same time and everything would be replaced at the same time 20 years from now.
So are we going to, the RFPs are already out. So there's one for
No.
the town buildings and one for the school buildings. We're going to try to get the architecture done, the architect plans done for the entire roof, or really for all 4 buildings on each RFP at the same time. So we don't have to keep going back for architecture.
Right.
Every roof.
Right, the goal would be if we're gonna do the phases like at Parkman, okay, per this schedule. If we're gonna do Parkman Phase 1 and Parkman Phase 2, we're gonna have it just designed right now. How the whole thing designed right now. We'll split it out, and if the economies of scale aren't there, or we can't get a really good price on doing, we can have a deduct as a Parkman Phase 2, or just don't even do it. And we'll have it already ready and it's done and we'll just move on when it comes due, because that's an 18-year-old section there. Or again, we can wait a year, we can wait a couple of years and pile all these together, because in 21, if Parkman was 18 years old, we just gonna need to wait 2 more years and it's 20, then we can replace it. So that's 22 and we can do it in 23 or 24.
Right, okay. So my one comment, and then we can open it up for people's thoughts or questions, is the public safety complex, the police station, is slated to be year 1, which would be 2022,
Yep.
if we can get it done. Does it make sense to keep that? And is it the will of the council and or the town to go back and try again for a public safety complex? And if we are going to do, you know, whether we get money from the state and are able to pass a referendum, if we even choose to do that, does it make sense to roof the police station now? Or should we wait, right? So I think that's another point that we should kind of start to talk about. I don't know that we need to make any of those decisions per se tonight, but I do want to open it up for some dialogue on what people are thinking as far as, do we need to reprioritize some of these? Should we try to do them in 1 phase instead of 2 phases, which would be my preference? But I know that there might be some roofs that really need to be done and can't wait 3 years. So,
All right, so to your point, Gina, for the town part, I put in the public safety complex as 22 because it was an easy one. It's not like there's a lot of heavy lifting for design. That's
Right.
something we can get out of the gate, I would assume, very quickly, get it out of the gate and get it done and move on. Then move on to Alcor and give us a little longer time to design to get through all that annex stuff because of just the sheer size of it. But I mean, down here is an alternative one we could do. We could hold off the public safety complex to 25. It's a shingled roof. It's in fair condition. It's doing all right. I mean, we can limp it through a few more years. That's up to, again, we could do the annexed in Alcorn, then public safety, or flip it around. There's ways to get around it. If, again, we can adopt any one of these orders, but again, it'd be the will of this committee and the council, and I will move it forward however you folks want to discuss it. So those are some options that we can do. And it's just, again, do we wait back on the BOE side? Do we wait a couple of years to have a project? It could be good because of the supply chain issues now, just getting materials, getting labor, and all the backlogs of work that's already out there. Would this be beneficial? I can't answer that right now, but I don't know if optically, if waiting is a thing, but we will be doing work, like in 23 next year. Get all the design work, get all that stuff for the annex and get that cooking. So there's pros and cons to either one of the methods, but I'll leave it up to you, Gina.
okay. Anybody have any comments? I mean, I'm hoping to hear from most people. So you're all small, so it's going to be harder for me to call on you all in one order. Marie, do you want to start?
You're on
You're
mute.
on mute.
Here we go. I would like to see the public safety go back up for a referendum. It was heartbreaking when that didn't pass. So I agree that if we can push that one down, I also think we would probably get a bigger bang for our buck if we could do one school complete instead of breaking it up in phases. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. I might just go along the bottom if that's all right. Tina, do you have anything? Tina LeBlanc?
Gina, would you want me to stop presenting and get that off the screen? Would that be easier for you?
I'm okay with you taking it off the screen unless people want that up there for reference. I think you can take it off. I appreciate it,
All right.
Donald. Thank you.
I
Oh, there you
will
go.
agree with Marie on this as far as the Public Safety Academy. And it, you know, I think it shows a lot of forward thinking by Mr. Wilcox and upon the completion, because it always seems like when we have projects here, like we finish one and we're kind of starting right back to where we finished off, whereas this allows us to have a greater plan. So yeah, that's where I stand on it.
Awesome. Thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but it was hard to see if everybody was raising their hand. Tim, I saw your hand, I think.
Yeah, I certainly agree on the public safety part of it. I agree with taking the time to try to figure out a way to move these things down so that we can get them in some order that makes some sense. And I think, I'd be surprised if people had a lot of concerns about that. I do have a concern about the phases though, and it's a question as much as a concern. One of the reasons we do phases is that we only generally have the summertime to do the schools, and I'm not sure if we're going to do a whole school at that time, which certainly there's economies of scale there. Are we able to do that in a summer? And that's a question mark maybe for Dawn. The phase thing had nothing to do with what we thought was a good idea. It had to do with how much time we had to get it done.
Right.
Yeah, understood. And to be abundantly honest, I wouldn't know that. Maybe Krista might be able to weigh in on how fast those things get done. I just know what we've witnessed over at Barnard, but that was giving me I just rather have Chris talk about that.
Sure. So the difference now would be, in the past, like with the Barnard roofs, we've struggled to get the funding in place. We've been kind of restricted with how much roof we could do with the funding. And then we're always behind the optimal time to put it out to bid to get the work done over the course of the summer. We've never started, in early or mid-June, the day after school gets out, and had the luxury of using the entire summer to get one done. So yes, it is absolutely possible in this scenario, now that the funding is in place, as Gina mentioned earlier, with the projects, the design for the roofs being completed well in advance, we could bid these out much earlier, lock in the contractors and say like this time frame in January, and make sure that we have all the materials and everything that we need well in advance of, say, on average June 15th to be able to start and utilize the entire summer. So yes, it is possible.
Okay. It would just require some careful planning and timelines, obviously.
Right.
Okay.
The biggest part would be to have the plans and specs bid out, in a opened or then awarded and go through all that contract stuff. So they'll have 6-8 months to go get materials. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we could actually be bidding in November, maybe November of 23 for Crandall and Parkman. Because by the time we get it out the bid and all that kind of stuff like that, could be October, November. By the time we award it and get all the paperwork, it could be January, mid-January, February before we get a contractor locked in on contract with a PO. That gives them the authorization to go get the materials. And right now you can't find insulation, you can't find other things in sight because of, what happened around us. So this might be a benefit to hold off like that and stack them and, do those like we were talking, like that second one that I was talking about. We do the entire.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in that case, you do get the economy of scale because you're buying the entire roof in one shot.
Right. Okay. Tim, anything else?
No.
Nope. Okay. John, I thought, did you have your hand up too?
Yeah, I did. Just being new here to the committee. Just could someone please just briefly explain the difference between a phase 1 and a phase 2? What's the difference there, please?
Hold on, I'll show you. Give me a few minutes. I'll put something up on the screen.
And I don't want to be a burden here to everyone
No.
else who may know this already.
Nope.
No, that's fine. I think it's always nice to have a little bit of a refresher. I think it was just, if we were going to do it in one phase, it would be the entire roof. If it was in 2 phases, they were going to deal with part of the roof at one time, finish that, and then do the other part of the roof. And I think for, let's say, Parkman specifically, part of Parkman's roof is not over 20 years old. My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Donald or Chris, is that the roof has to be at least 20 years old in order to qualify for the reimbursement from the state. So
Correct.
that would be the major reason why they would do it in phases.
So when you say part of the roof, do you mean one section of the roof, one
Yeah.
section of the building? Okay.
Do you see this on the screen, John?
Or section,
Yes.
same thing.
All right, so this section here was done at a later time, so this one is a younger section. We were able to do these sections first, that's why they're bright white.
Yeah.
And so then we had to leave this section out. So because we didn't have the funding and we couldn't touch that one, so then we come back and go finish like a little section here. That's what we're talking about, having that phase. So we could do a majority of the roof, but leave this part out, then come back 3 years, 4 years later, then do this, or we wait a couple of years and do the entire section of roof here.
Okay, so then when you're describing phase 1, that would be what's in the white? That's phase
Yeah.
1? Okay.
Then phase 2, we'd have to come back and finish the area here and area here, but again, you're taking a much smaller section, you still gotta mobilize, you still gotta bring people there, you still gotta go through the same contracts, you gotta do all these things over and over. That's why we were talking about that, to do the entirety of one roof and just wait a couple weeks.
Yep, I got it. So thank you very
Okay.
much for that. Appreciate it. The second comment I have has to do with something that Gina had said earlier about prioritizing. You mentioned the public safety complex, and you said if monies could be available from the state. And then I heard Marie say something about referendum. If monies were available for the state, let's just say the council wanted to go out and to complete that public safety complex. And if there were monies available from the state, would that have to go back out to referendum? Or if the monies were available from the state to do the job, could you just obtain the monies through a grant and then just do it without going to referendum?
So it's funny, and that was, I will tell you something that Chris Bromson spent a lot of time, I'm going to say, discussing with both John Wilcox and I think the state, because what was it, like $12.6 million or $13.5 million or whatever the state was going to kick in order for us to do the Public Safety Academy. Even though that was not town money, we are still that pass through, and it would still trigger the referendum, sadly, because it wouldn't even be our money and wouldn't be the taxpayers' money, even though it's another pocket. But that is something that the town manager's office did get an opinion on. I'm not going to tell you that they agreed with the opinion, and I think may want to get another one, but I think the answer is going to be the same, that it's still going to trigger a referendum. So that is something that they looked at.
Gina, wouldn't it be the same as being reimbursed for a school roof? I mean, wouldn't they want to see the work done before we got the money from the safety academy?
I don't actually know. I want to say that it was a little different, that we were going to get front loaded that money, but again, I'm guessing and I don't know
Okay.
that to be.
See, that the way I understood it, and again, I'm like you, but the way I understood it, it was going to be just like the roofs that we would,
reimbursed.
I think we were getting reimbursed, but
Yeah.
again, I don't know. So maybe we do need clarification on that, but.
Yeah. But it's a good question, John, but I do think that, unfortunately, it's going to trigger the referendum regardless. If we want to go back in that, even if that state money, that 12.5, let's say $1 million is there for us to take, it's still going to have to go to referendum.
Okay, thank you, Gina.
Okay. Did you have anything else while you have the
And
floor?
thank you too, Donald.
Bethany. You're in the center of my screen, like the
Aw.
Brady Bunch.
My question was, we did Barnard in 3 phases because of funding.
Mhm.
And a portion of that did not meet the 20 years, which was the gym. So that was not done. Is that part of this referendum? Other gyms? Like on Barnard where we're pretty much completed?
I don't think
When
the
does that hit
Barnard
20
roof
years?
is, but are you talking about like Parkman Gym and
Well,
Randall?
it looks like according to this proposed plan to push those forward, that those would then fall in line, because I believe those are the roofs that are not yet 20, is the where we added on the gyms to the space.
The gyms in the
So,
library? Yeah.
right. So that looks like that would be handled as we push those forward, which I agree with. It makes complete sense from every aspect of what's going on right now. But what about where we invested the money at Barnard, getting that truly 100%? I'm assuming that gym is probably going to hit 20 years within the next 2 to 3 as well. But I'm not 100% sure on that.
I think you're right.
My data shows it's 17 years old.
Yeah, I
So
was
would
gonna
that-
say, I think that was done in 2003 or 2001. I forget.
It's 17 years old, Chris. That's what I got.
Right.
So was that included in this referendum, that portion of that building, or we still need to work on that?
We still need to work on that.
Okay.
That could be the gap in between, that could be the gap, you know what I mean, in between. Or I can figure out how we can work that out to get that covered.
If Donald has nothing to do for 6 months in the next 4 years, he can work on the Barnard roof.
Sounds
Or the
about right.
gym.
I'm pretty light these days, so, just feel free. I'm fine.
But no, that's a good question. No, I don't think that is, but I believe that, so for Parkman, Enfield Street School and Crandall, and I guess, well, Stowe had the library. No, it was the gym, right? That was added on. Are those gymnasiums included? Because it's just the entire roof, right?
It would be the enther roof, because
Okay.
that one at Stowe is 18 years old. So it actually would come due a little sooner. So if we're gonna hold off and do the entirety, then we have to wait those couple of years before we go out.
Okay. All right. Bethany, anything else?
Nope. I agree with moving the public safety complex forward.
Matt, anything from you, sir?
Yeah, I don't want to be the only one not to say anything, but yeah, everything everyone is saying makes sense. It makes perfect sense to push public safety back as long as it's not in some kind of dire repair, which it doesn't sound like is. And then, I think it also makes sense to get as much done, at one time, so then replacement becomes easier. So yeah, everything, I agree with everything everyone is saying. And then I do think, however unfortunate, it probably is best for the public safety to go through a referendum anyways. Just always careful of the optics of people voting something down and then just doing it anyway. So I think that is probably a good thing too. So that's what I got.
Okay. So I would think that where we stand right now, Matt, me, you, Marie, we're going to need to go back to our caucuses and kind of talk to the town manager as well to see what the will is regarding the Public Safety Academy, and do we want to go out to another referendum? Because if the answer is no, then I think that obviously we don't need to push out Public Safety Academy and we can start with that right away, right? But if the will is let's try it again, then I don't think we should start with it, but that seems to be kind of the consensus. So Donald, I mean, that's a little direction. So I mean, you guys can fiddle with the schedule a little, and I think, if what Chris is saying, we can get everything done in one foul swoop and we don't need to do it in phases, then it makes the most sense.
To wait okay, no problem. I think Marie was.
No, that's okay. No, my question is, we are going to have an election in November. Could we possibly get it onto a November ballot for a referendum? Or does we could do that, correct? It doesn't
think
have
we
to be at a
can.
municipal election.
It can be any election. We don't-
Okay,
it
I
can
just
be-
wanted to verify that. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that, thank you, Gina.
We have to hit the timelines though, so I think it would need to be, stuff has to be done by July, so we would really need to make a decision sooner rather than later, and then certain things need to be done by September. You know how it has that whole schedule. Tim?
I don't want to lose track of the Barnard gym. If I heard it correctly, Don, that was not included in the referendums. And so we got that 18-year, that 2-year thing that it has, that's why it wasn't included, I assume. But if we're doing the other whole roofs that include the gyms and the libraries and all that stuff that went in there, I just don't want to lose track of that. We have to find some way to get that in, maybe in that 6 months when you're not busy, but at some point, we need to get that. Whether we deal with it with a referendum, just to get that one chunk done, or the town has some monies, I have no idea where, but I think we have, I just don't want to lose it, because it will get lost for 5 or 6 years, and then we'll have a building not complete, and the next time we go around,
Right.
we won't be able to do it. So that's my thought.
Tim, I think those can probably get handled the same way we did Eli and Hazardville this year, where John Wilcox can appropriate his max appropriation under the
Okay,
referendum limit. And then, well, I don't know what the square footage is. I haven't done an estimate on what that roof would cost. But if it exceeds that, then we have the time now to, we should approach John to start to put away money in the current fiscal year for that project. And then when the next fiscal year comes, he can put in the balance of that, so that we'll then have the full appropriation for that ahead of time. And then we can handle it that way. So this way here, we're thinking about it in advance enough that by the time we have the full appropriation, the roof will be of age, then we can submit the grant application.
sounds great. I forgot all about that, Chris. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Awesome. All right, anybody? Oh, Bethany.
Will we still be working on phases at Eli and Hazardville at that point too, though?
I won't know that until the bids come back the end of the month.
Okay.
Depending on how the bids come back, we only have a certain amount of money. We may have to look at phasing Eli and Hazardville, and we may have to approach those the same way with the funding from John, separate from the referendum.
Okay. Anybody else on the referendum? All right, cool. So next I have the transfer station. Any updates on timeline and bids? So I'm going to turn it over to Donald for this one.
Okay, so we went out to bid the first time. We received no bids. We went out about a month later. We received one bid, and that bid came in at $844,820 for the base bid. And with the second scale, it would have been an additional $98,000 on top of that, for a total of $942,820. Currently, through capital and like John Wilcox budgeted $610,000 that hit the books July 1st of 2022. So what Chris said before about the referendum limits and the like, John can appropriate $689,000 for one project before we have to go to referendum. Obviously 600, even if we put in the extra $79,000, 610 and 79, it's only 689 isn't close to that, isn't close to the $942,820. But prior to the meeting, I had a nice long conversation with him. There is some money available that's already appropriated for the infrastructure sinking fund. Now, this is where again, the council, this would have to be at the will of the council. There's $300,000 that is in there right now. So already appropriated is 610 in that sinking fund, which the infrastructure sinking fund, which we could use to separate the water and the sewer and the septic, all that kind of stuff like that. We pull that, pay for that portion of the project out of the infrastructure sinking fund. Then he would have to appropriate another 50,000 or so like he did, but to make that 610 to like 660,000. So it is doable. It would, to do it now. The bid is still good for the contractor. We still have about a month to go before that bid expires. So we could actually, if the council wants to appropriate or if they want to use that 300,000 out of the sinking fund and have John appropriate another 78,000, we could do the project. We could do the. If that's, again, that would have to be the will of the council. Then he would replace. Then we could replace that 300,000 in the sinking fund, he said, during, for July of 23.
So, okay, just for everybody's clarity, so Don and I talked a little bit offline prior to the meeting, and he told me about this bid coming in high. We did discuss a little bit about if it was possible to use any ARA monies for the sewer or water, since that was something that the town manager's office was looking to do with bathrooms around fields and things like that. So that is something we're going to look into. I think that would probably take away, if it was even eligible, may take away from some of the other projects that may have been already earmarked for some of the ARA money, but it's something that we can discuss. But Donald, so
I did get a preliminary ruling from John about that.
Yep.
Because the key word of that whole, of what you just stated is appropriation. The 300,000 in the sinking fund has already been appropriated for infrastructure. Mm-hmm. If we take the ARPA money out and appropriate it for the transfer station, regardless, so if it's, let's say we brought in $400,000, the 400 plus the 610 puts us over the referendum money because it's appropriated to the same project.
So help me with my math. We already have $600,000 that was appropriated to this project.
610.
610, right?
Yep.
So we already have 610 that was appropriated prior. That went in fiscal year 2022.
Correct.
So the bid came in somewhere between 834 and 934.
Well, the base bid was 844, 820.
Okay.
And the second scale was 98, so a total project of $942,820.
All right, so we would need somewhere between, let's, $200,000 and $300,000. Okay.
Right. Which we have the 300,000 in the infrastructure sinking fund, which was appropriated to do water and sewer and infrastructure. So that's where John believes that might be.
Okay.
The way. But again, it would have to come from you folks that say, because I can't spend out of that account, which I'd love to, but I can't without your approval. So that's where you're gonna have to go back to your representative caucuses, or if that's a direction, we could do it as early as the first meeting in February. And
all right. So I kind of wish Doug was here for this conversation, so it's unfortunate that he can't be here tonight. But so what are people's thoughts? Is having water, sewer, running water something, I feel like that was almost a consensus that was something that we all absolutely wanted in the new transfer station. But I'm willing to discuss if there are people who don't know if that or don't think that's necessary, and thoughts about using the sinking fund money. And I think included in that would be that second scale. If we want to, I think that was like an add-on or a value add or whatever you call it when you do a quote. So what are people's thoughts on some of those things? Bethany?
I think we need to do the water and everything that we had planned to do, because that really was the main goal and really is the work condition that they should have.
I agree.
So I don't think that's a negotiable. And as I had a question on the sinking fund. This is the same sinking fund that we've been using to help fund some of these roofs, correct? Or no?
There was a different, there's two separate sinking funds. This one
That was
here,
the roof one, right?
yeah, this one here is specifically for infrastructure.
Okay.
And, you know, so.
Okay, that was my only question on that.
Okay. Tim?
I agree with Bethany on that. The water issue is way beyond what's reasonable right now. If we don't take care of that, then to me, it's not worth doing. That's primary for me. In terms of the using the 300,000 for infrastructure and doing it for the types of things you're talking about, all of them are lacking right now. So certainly we need to take care of them. But if we have that sinking fund, which is why we designed that sinking fund several years ago, let's use it. Let's get the infrastructure done and make it happen. And the third thing would be, in terms of the second scale, I don't see that really as an add-on. Having been a person who spends a lot of time at the transfer station in my retirement, one scale just doesn't do it, especially if you go down on a Saturday. Okay, so I don't see it as an add-on. That's just me speaking.
Okay. I mean, I feel like the vibe was, when we talked about the transfer station, is why wouldn't we want water there? That's kind of one of the main reasons we wanted to redo that and tear it down and start over. So, Marie?
I mean, in the scheme of things, if you're going to spend the money and you start breaking it down, it's kind of like you build half your house and forget to do one portion of it. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of, you're doing this project. We need to complete it from start to finish, because sooner or later you're going to have to come up with the money to finish it. So I am for using that infrastructure money and getting the project done, putting it to bed. We've been talking about it for a long time. It's time to start it and get it off the ground. So
yeah, Marie, it's like building half your house without a bathroom.
Yeah.
Right, and then they wouldn't have the bathroom there. I mean, this actually predated me being on the Joint Facilities Committee, so it's got to be two years or so that this was started to be an item for discussion. And this is exactly why we have sinking funds. We have sinking funds so we can put money away into somewhere that is earmarked for a certain group of projects under the referendum amount, so we can spend it on items to get projects done, so we don't have to go to referendum to get something done. So, I mean, it kind of, in my opinion, it kind of seems like it's exactly what we have them for.
Right.
So just so I'm clear on it, because you're going to separate this into two separate entities for the same building, it doesn't have to go to referendum. Because
No.
in technicality, you're still spending $942 plus, $1,000, but because some of it's coming. So I'll let you talk, Donald.
Yeah, so again, it was appropriated for use for infrastructure, which that was. The 610 was appropriated for use at the transfer station improvements. So that's where, again, if we had took more money now that was unappropriated, then you said put it into the transfer station, that is going to go over the 188,000. So that's why it's different. This money's already appropriated. It's already in there. It's just sitting there waiting to be used. Now, I have tried kind of value engineering things around it. Like, so let's say we want to put the scale house in and maybe try to move that scale, or put the second scale in and do this. And there's so much that kind of all just kind of teeters on, you got to do this before you do this and this before you do this. And at some point you get to a point where you got to have these other things before things work out. So I've tried 10 different ways to figure out, okay, just put this product in now, then we'll wait till July. It just wasn't working. It'd be so hodgepodge. To me, I'd rather wait and not, again, and do it all at once so it makes sense. It's like even like that if we didn't do the second scale, we're gonna put the brand new house in, then we're gonna put the second scale in first. So that way we can be operational while they move the second scale, which is going to take a month to go move other second scale. So we'll be operational using the second one. then when the first one comes back online, now we're gonna be done with and now we'll have 2 scales. So that kind of like, logistics and timing and all other kind of stuff just wasn't working by value engineering it down to 688,000. It just wasn't working. So I think the best course, again, my own selfish self is saying, yeah, sure, I'll use the 300 as long as Gina says so. So we can, bring it up
I
at
mean,
the
it sounds
council
right,
meeting.
it
So,
sounds like it's
it's,
not a
I'll put
project.
that on Gina. If she's not doing anything for the next 6 hours or 6 months, she can write the resolution or something. So,
I mean, it sounds like it's not a project that can really be done in phases
no, it really isn't.
in the end. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions, opinions on using? Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, question, just, Donald, you're referencing July. Can you just say a little bit more about that? You're saying the money would go back in July 2023? Is that what you said?
Well, again, if it would, the council would designate 300,000 out of capital for 2023 to put it back into the sinking fund to just replenish it.
Right.
So we could either draw it all down and council decides, no, we're not going to refund that sinking fund and leave it at a 0, or you folks can, through the budget process coming up in the next month or so, you can elect to fill it back up again.
Gotcha.
And it'll be full back on July 1st of 2022, which is technically FY23.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? All right, so it sounds like we're all for water, using the sinking funds if that's possible, and then keeping the second scale. Am I? Yeah, okay. So again, that this is going to be something that, Maria, you can go back to your side, and Matt and I will go back and discuss this with our side to make sure, sort of to see what everybody's opinion is, and then the council would have to do those resolutions to do those appropriations. What are we looking at for timeline then? Donald, you said the bid came in and we only got one, so I guess that makes it an easy
Yeah,
choice, but what's their timeline?
Well, again, we sort of died on the vine for a little while here, so I have to resurrect that. But it's a contractor we've used before, and he's in town. He's totally fine. I don't believe he would have an issue with it. We just got to get him going on the submittals, because I don't know how long some of these things like that house. I don't know how long that's even out. Who knows? Or the scale could be out, 12, 14 weeks, but. As long as I can get a PO to them and gets things cooking, I'll go through the submittal process throughout February and stuff, and get the things ordered, and we'll get them out, and you can start it my assumption is he would start it in April.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah,
So we're
it
looking at it
would.
hopefully being done this summer,
Oh, yeah, yep,
hopefully.
yep.
Great. Good. All right, anything else on that? All right, perfect. Oh man, I'm gonna break my rule that I didn't want to have a meeting over an hour long. All right, so I'll get through this next one quick. Discussion about making the Joint Facilities Committee the building committee for the roofs. So I've had some discussion with the town manager's office. I talked to Donald, I talked to Chris about this. So my understanding is for the roof projects, the town roofs do not need any resolutions regarding the Joint Facilities Committee being the building committee, because DPW is going to deal with that. The school roofs, my understanding is each roofing project, so each school is going to require their own resolution, and I think it's going to be more than one, because they're school roofs. So the Joint Facilities Committee would then be, when we do each of these roofs, would then be acting as the building committee for that roofing project. So it's not really going to change our charge. It's not going to change our membership. It's not going to change anything like that. But we would be acting as the building committee for those individual roofing projects. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that. It was more of just kind of a statement. That's kind of what we're going to be doing for the next couple of years. But as far as the town side goes, they're going to be handling that. Did I get that right, Chris? I don't know if you're still on.
Yes.
Yep, no, I'm here. Yes, you did get that right.
Sweet. Okay. Any questions on that? Tim?
Isn't that what we've done in the past? I thought one of the reasons we set it up this way was because it was so much easier than to have all these building committees that would have to be educated as to what was going on. Since we were intimately involved with this whole process, that the committee was probably in the best position to do it. So I'd say keep up what we've been doing. Why, it's not broken, let's not fix it.
Why fix it? Yep. All right, joint facilities communications, Scott's not here, so I think we can kind of go past that. We do, I think have Scott shares stuff and then on Facebook and Twitter or whatever else he does. Committee comments. So does anybody have any comments or things that we didn't touch upon that they'd like to chat about this evening? Marie?
Real quick, just one question. During some of the BOE meetings, and Tina, I think you can address this as well. There have been some people that have been asking about using some of the ARPA funds for like a better air purification in the schools. Is that something that we can look into, Donald? I mean, if we're going to be doing roofing, that might be a good time to put in some kind of exhaust or, and Tina, you can probably speak to this more because I know they've spoken at the BOE more than they've, but I think it might be something to look at, especially, if the roofs are coming off.
Yeah, so with all the startup again, and all the stuff with COVID, all of the fans, all the exhaust fans, everything is working. We've replaced countless pieces and parts that just didn't work. Again, exhaust fans and fresh air return, all this other kind of stuff like that. We've done all that already. We have looked at putting in some sort of systems, but again, these older systems aren't designed for HEPA filters and to get to force that air through. It's a completely different design, and that kind of filtering. They do have ultraviolet things. There's a whole variety of other ways to do it. It is extremely costly because of, again, you're retrofitting everything. This isn't like a new install. So the sizing of the ducts, there's a lot more to it than just kind of like throwing a better filter in. It's just, it's on these bigger systems, it's a little different than that. So we have looked at that. I do have some information on it. I did submit things to the manager. I will try to look for that and share things. If I have to go find it, I'll make note of it.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask. I didn't want it to go unasked because I do think in these times it is, air quality is something we're all worried about. So
no, I understand it, and it's time if there was some sort of thing to do with it. But I know that again, we did look at it, and I'll get you some information when I find it.
Thank you.
As a follow-up to that, I'm assuming, or whoever's on the JFK building committee, can you just clarify, are any steps like that being taken as JFK is being built? Or I'm not sure where Enfield High and JFK stand since they're newer construction.
I actually don't know if that's been included. I'm assuming there's all new ductwork and all new systems at JFK. I'd be shocked if there wasn't sort of any air purification system, but I don't know the answer to that.
Chris would.
I would suggest we can either.
Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah,
Chris
sorry.
may know.
That's okay. What is it? What is it that we're talking about?
Do they have? Does the new heating, the HVAC systems have a different sort of purification? Are they HEPA based? What are they?
Yeah, they're all HEPA-based filters, but there's nothing specifically as it relates to like COVID or anything like that. It was just everything to meet, the energy code, the new energy code standards, but they are HEPA filters.
Okay. Did that help? Okay. Bethany?
Just a quick question. Is John LeBlanc still working with the school on doing the presentation that kind of feeds back into our communications piece?
I don't know. I'd have to ask him. I think that was kind of something that he was taking and running with. We can ask him or somebody on the BOE can ask him, but We can get that info.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Any comments from anybody else? All right, so traditionally we have had 2 Thursday meetings. I think we get like the second and the fourth Thursday, and JFK gets the first and third Thursday. I would really like to not have to have a meeting twice a month. Not that I don't want to see you all the time, but unless there's really something pressing, I don't seem to think it's necessary to have 2 meetings a month. The bids are due, I think, at the end of the month. So Chris, what were we talking about? The 10th?
Yeah, yes, we were trying to shoot for a February 10th.
February 10th?
Their facilities meeting, right? Hopefully
All
the
right.
bids come back favorable and we can make a recommendation. We being myself and the architect can make a recommendation to this committee to award to a contractor on February 10th.
Okay, so why don't we put it in our schedule now? Next meeting as of right now will be February 10th. I don't think that there's a need to have another meeting this month. So unless I'm meeting a lot of objection, it'll be February 10th at 6 p.m. I will be honest, I enjoy virtual meetings, especially if there's this COVID surge continuing, but I also understand the need to have in-person meetings sometimes. So I think the location will be TBD. So it may be virtual and or we'll have in person. But it will be 6 p.m. on the 10th. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn unless there's something from anybody else.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
All right, thanks, guys.
Good night, all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.